Good evening. How you doing? I'm doing good. I'm talking to you. That's right, you, my viewer, my subscriber. Morning, Sky. Silver, senior, chatty Sky. Coming at you. That's right. And I'm a little irked. More than a little. I have to get something off my chest, and I'm going to talk to you guys. I am beside myself in what I just found out. Now, I've been spending the last few hours, as most of you know if you've been following me and watched my last couple videos, my husband passed, Edward Sky. He passed on May 27th, right here in the living room in a hospice bed. And I miss him dearly. And at this time of evening is a little the most difficult because we had a little routine where we would watch our shows, have our supper here, watch our shows, and talk to one another and share our thoughts about our day and, watch, different shows, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, all that come on, in sync, and, it's an every night occurrence, and we've been doing that for 17 years, and so that's a hard one. That's hard. But anyway, I'm going the route of having him cremated. I am not going the route of going through these funeral homes where to me, they're money grabbing, and I get it that everyone has to make a living, earn a living. I get that. And yet I think the prices are just outrageous. And so I just don't have it to put forth into that regard. But I mean no disrespect to my husband or any loved one that should pass. I mean, I want to do it as respectfully and as honorably as I can. But being practical, and I have to be right now because obviously I'm a sinking ship here in this house, so I've got to be very mindful of my budget. That's another reason, and Eddie and I talked about all this anyway, so that's another reason why I'm watching my budget, and every penny matters right now. And yet I still, he was a veteran, and I want to do whatever kind of memorial I'm going to do, I want to do it respectfully. Well, I'm still waiting for his ashes, and the price of that was doable, the cremation, and I'm going with the small package, they call it, I guess, the least expensive. And so that means I won't get his ashes back in a big fancy container or anything. It'll be in just a, I don't know, bin or plastic container that I will then, put his ashes into a pretty little urn. We have a lot of nice pieces here, and I'm going to select something that I have, and I will still make it nice. Now, I plan to have a memorial gathering here, not go through a funeral home, save that money, but make it just as nice. My family and friends will do food for a gathering afterwards. I can do food too. I have some friends that they were our neighbors, and they want to do some of the catering, so that's fine. Let's do it, Have some flowers, have a nice memorial, pictures, music that he liked. I can do this. I did it for my father and his wife, and I honored it nicely. I had a pastor here. We had a beautiful ceremony and a beautiful gathering, and I did not give any money to a funeral home. So anyway, with that, I plan to do a lot of that same thing. But one of the things I did want to do, and so I spent the last few hours on my local newspaper to do up an obit. And the obit, I wrote it way back. I wrote two of them, actually. One was a couple years ago when I saw him, some changes in his body and how he was um, going about his day. I saw something, I better start thinking about writing an obit. So I had written one a couple years ago, and then I couldn't find it at first in my documents in my computer because I've changed computers over the years. So I wrote another one, but then tonight I was able to find the old one because I knew it was written much nicer. Well, and I can be a little wordy because I wanted to honor everything about his life, because my husband, was a collector, as I've talked about, of antiques. He was very knowledgeable. He is a veteran. He served in the military. He was in the military for 3 years during the Korean conflict and found himself over in Bamberg, Germany. And then when he got out, still a young man, he came back to the Turner's Falls area, which at the time, the section that he lived in was over the paper mill bridge, and it was called the Patch. It's still called the Patch. But if you were a kid from down the Patch, you were, had some strong memories of the canal and the different things that happened in the Patch, the bakery there and the little general store. And it was like a little entity in its own. Anyway, there's a lot of things. He was a lover of vintage cars, and he loved tinkering with old cars, and he knew a lot about, and he had beautiful vintage cars, show cars, that he entered in the local fair for a few years there, and things like, I wanted to honor all of that. So I wrote this beautiful obit, and I can read it to you. And I'm going to, because that's how I'm going to get his obit out there. I am not, because what I'm irked about is that in all this other stuff I'm doing, and I am looking at everything budget-wise. So now the last time I did an obit was from my father, and that would have been, he passed in 2013. So, okay, 2013 to 2023 is 10 years. So 13 years ago, and boy, those years went by fast too. But anyway, I remember paying about $60, something like that, at the paper, the local paper in Greenfield. And at that time, I thought that was a lot of money. And maybe I'm just a real tightwad, and maybe I'm so out of sync with the times. I don't know. I don't think so, though. I think I'm seeing it like a lot of people see it, and I think it's time for all of us to start marching with our signs and kicking up our heels, because the funeral homes and these sources of, doing your obits is ridiculous as far as the money they're charging. My God. So anyway, I spend the last few hours rearranging things and, kind of knocking some words out, doing less lines, because I had something initially was like 500 words, letters or words or some words. Well, when I put that, anyway, when you go onto your newspaper, at least this is what happened to me today, if I did it all correctly, and I believe I did. I Googled in, create an obit for the local newspaper. How do I do that? And it takes me to the paper's obituary source, where you can click on, create one, submit one, this and that. And then if you want to know the pricing, which I learned like halfway through it comes up. But I was initially taken to another, bigger, more dressier, let's say, source off the paper. It's another source that, kind of like a funeral home would do it for you. And you can go the route of a funeral home doing it. It's all these little branches of this source that feeds to the paper, if I'm making any sense, the way I understand it. So I click on this source, and honest to God, just the terms and conditions that I had to read to get beyond to the next page, and I had to create an account, and I had to have my email and a password. Everything's a password today. You need a book just for your passwords, and I have one, by the way. So anyway, I do all that, and so I write this beautiful, because I'm a writer. I like to write, and I think it's just the nicest obit, and I'm proud of it. And I wanted to put it in the paper. And I'm thinking, maybe from $60 back in 2013, that maybe I'm paying between $100 to say $150 at the most to get a nice picture and an obit in the paper. And I think that's a lot of money, but I was willing to go that route. Well, let me tell you, when I got all done, and I'm so glad I did not hit the submit button to actually link me stuck on a bill that I was not prepared to pay and am not prepared to pay and would never pay that amount ever. And that's no disrespect to my husband. Not at all. He wouldn't want me paying that either. And neither should you or anybody else. We need to fight this system, people. It's getting ridiculous. Do you know what that was? Take a guess. I'm going to read it to you and show you it. And then I'm going to tell you what they want to charge me to actually go the route of putting that in, which I'm not doing. Let me go get it. Give me a second, and I will read it to you, and then we'll talk some more. I need a second. I've got to go in the back room off my printer and get it. I should have been prepared, but you can look at my... Okay. I'll show you his picture, and then I'll read it to you. My Eddie. That was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, perhaps. It was taken in a restaurant. We were getting ready to have one of his famous meals, fried scallops. Anyway, let me read it to you. Edward P. Sky. Peter. Edward Peter Sky. Berniston, Mass. Edward P. Sky, 91. And that's our address. Passed away on 5/27/2026, shortly after a recent diagnosis of cancer. Edward was born in 1934 in Tewksbury, Mass. He and his brother Francis Jerebeck were put into the foster care system as infants and grew up on a farm in Heath, Massachusetts, up on the hills, with foster parents George and Francine Lively Brunel. Edward shared many heartfelt and memorable stories of his youth and the years spent on the farm in Heath. Edward enlisted in the United States Army in 1953 and soon found himself in Bamberg, Germany during the Korean conflict, serving his country proudly. He was honorably discharged in 1956, where he came back home to live in the Patch of Turner's Falls, where his foster parents had moved to after selling the farm their farm in Heath during the time that he was away. It was during this time that he met his former wife, Margaret Woodard, Peggy Sky. And they were wed in 1956 in Bernardston, where they eventually came to live and raise their family. Their earlier years of marriage were spent in Connecticut, where Edward worked for the Electric Boat Company. Let's see, I don't know why that... Oh, okay, so it goes this way. Kind of printed out funny, sorry. Out of Groton, Connecticut, painting on submarines. Edward worked independently as a painter, having painted many homes within Franklin County, Massachusetts, where he gained the respect of all who knew him. Edward and Peggy enjoyed their years together and were avid antique dealers and collectors, and at one time had the largest collection of vintage porcelain noted in the United States. They truly did. They were part of this club too, RS Prussia, ES Prussia. Their home was always adorned with beautiful RS Prussia porcelain, along with vintage furniture and other works of art, etc. They also enjoyed country music and were big fans of many of the famous musicians and singer-songwriters as part of the Grand Ole Opry. Yeah. Edward proudly would speak of the time he played pool with Elvis Presley. He did. At Graceland. Their love of auctions and vintage items led them to have their own, buy and sell booths over the years. In 2008, after the death of his wife, Peggy, Edward met his present wife, Maureen Sullivan Interland Sky. And they wed in 2009. Edward and Maureen also enjoyed antiques and collectibles as a couple, and were always looking for a great find at your local auction or flea market. They loved working together on projects to repurpose and sell trash to treasure type items out of their barn. Yeah. Edward will be sadly missed by all who knew him. Edward leaves behind his wife of 17 plus years, Maureen Sky, 2 daughters, Crystal Snape, husband James Snape, and Michelle Cook of Melbourne, Florida, 2 grandchildren, John Russell of Bernardston, Connie Russell of Spain, and 2 step-grandchildren, Ryan Interland, wife Pam Patak Interland of Turners Falls, Massachusetts, and Gina Marie Garcia and her husband Matt Garcia of Navarre, Florida. 2 great-grandchildren, Kennedy Russell and Emma Russell. He was predeceased by his former wife, Margaret Woodard Sky, and his half-brother, Francis Jerebeck, and also many of the boys he grew up with on the farm in Heath, Mass, where he considered all of them his brothers. He did. In lieu of flowers, it is suggested to make a donation to the foster care system in your area. There are no calling hours, and a private service will be held at the convenience of the family. Okay, I think that's a beautiful and honorable and touching obit, don't you? Okay, well, and with his picture, to get this one showing, one viewing, one day in a paper, my local paper, is going to cost me something like $985. $985. Am I on planet Earth? I can't believe that. I cannot believe that. I am beside myself, as you can see. What? So, in 2013, a similar lengthy obit that I did for my father, maybe not quite as long, cost me $65. with a picture in 2013. And now it's $985. What have we been doing? I don't get that. I would never pay that. I don't care. It's for God himself. Sorry, Lord. My God. Are you kidding me? Something. Is it just me, folks? But I think something's very wrong here. Very, very wrong with our system here in the United States. And then to go through a funeral home, the average funeral is $10,000 to $14,000, depending on the route you take with a casket and a showing and viewing a wake, this and that. That's not including any frivolities or special stuff like buying some jewelry with the ashes tucked in, or planting trees in their name or something. No, that's all extra. So I nearly choked on that one, and I thank the good Lord I did not hit the button submit, because I think I'd be stuck with that one. And like I said, the terms and conditions page was like 6 pages long of all this language. And that right there alarmed me. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So watch out for that, folks. And we need to march in the streets. We need to protest. We need to power in numbers. We need to change the system. We need to go back to how other countries do it. I know they don't do it like that over in Costa Rica. My girlfriend is from there, and she told me they lay them out. Their family and friends gather, and they do it right in the homes like they used to do years ago. And then they have a whole system where they have a wooden box they make. And it's really just a crated box. It's not, anything real fancy. And then they are carried through the streets and then buried in a cemetery. And another little gathering, and, but none of this $10,000 to $14,000 business. No. And no wonder we can't save in this country. There's no saving anything. Now, one could say, well, you didn't plan well. No, we did. I tried everything under the sun. I made my calls to the veterans to find out if there was any way, shape, or form they could help. But because he didn't have any disabilities, he wasn't disabled via the military. He was disabled after the military, but not in the military. So that was out. He never applied over the years for any veterans benefits at all, other than I think maybe a home loan early on as a young man. So all of that was out. I've written letters to other sources for monetary information. Everything deceases when he passed. So now I'm waiting for the SSI people to call me on the 15th so I can even talk to know what I'm getting to work from for a budget, so you can understand my circumstance. So I am just appalled at this. I am just outraged. Since when does all this become acceptable? Since when do we turn a blind eye to this and just call it the norm? $1,000 almost to put for one day a bunch of words in the paper to honor somebody with their photo? Come on, people. And with media, the social media the way it is, I think it's about time we start our own little obituary column, don't you? I'm there, folks. I am so there. So this is it. This is my obit for Eddie. I loved you dearly. And in honor of my wonderful husband, here we are. Here we are. There is no way I would pay that kind of money. There's no way that I can, and there's no way that I would, if I could. That is outrageous. They are taking advantage of us. That is clearly a take advantage situation, in my opinion. And the funeral homes, too. That's ridiculous. I'll do it right here. I did it for my father, and it was beautiful. And I'll do it for my Eddie. I made a call to the local church that he liked having the roast beef suppers. We weren't church goers. I think he might have gone to church maybe half a dozen times in his adult life. He went every Sunday as a kid because his foster mother was big on that, and a devout Catholic. Yeah, so he did. So, and he'll tell you that. And that was the day she made the crock of baked beans. And nobody could touch any of the food or anything till you went to church and came back and, you know, did what she said. And then you got to sit down and have a nice dinner of cornbread and beans. Anyway, it's a wonder I'm smiling because that to me is so discouraging. So discouraging. Now, to get to the newspapers, area newspapers, and I'm not going to, name the actual newspapers, but even their prices start at about $223. And that is for one day in a print up of up to 210 words. Well, everything I read you was 500 and something words. So you can imagine how much information you can get. Even at $223, you get a whole whopping 210 words. So you can barely speak about their name, their date of birth, their date of death, and who they lived with. That's outrageous. And then it goes up from there at $50 a whack for a photo, and another $50 a whack for longer submissions, and another $43 if it's a color photo. And it just goes on and on and on, people. I cannot believe it. I'm blown away. I am blown away by this. We got to do something. We got to do something about this. We got to start a movement. We really do. This can't be happening. That's highway robbery, like a lot of other things today. But this is clearly highway robbery, in my opinion. If my opinion matters, and I'd like to think it does to somebody. So anyway, I was, on a different note, I was able to make connection with a person and his wife, I believe, or maybe it was his daughter. I want to say it was probably his wife, although she looked younger than him. I don't know. It was either his wife or his daughter, because he was walking with a cane. But anyway, it's a man who, and the lady, who they do barn clean-outs, and he gave me a price that's doable to get the rest of that stuff in my barn. And he's going to have a dumpster there, and he's going to get rid of a big freezer in the back room, and he's going to get rid of a bunch of stuff for me out of that barn. And I'm going to help, and this other lady will help, and the three of us. And I'm excited about it. And we're going to see a lot gone next Monday. He's coming Friday to start putting stuff into barrels to put in the dumpster. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm doing it, folks. I'm doing a lot of things, and that's why, another reason why I have to watch my budget. Now, even what I'm giving this man is going to take, you know, significantly from any source I have, but I kind of have to do it because at my age and my abilities and my stamina, I can't do it alone. I need some help, and I do have to pay a little for that. So, but I like what he told me. And if he can get all that out of there and it gone, I will be greatly relieved. I think I'll be able to really breathe and feel like I'm getting somewhere. So I am working with that. But this has me just so blown away. What's your take on it? Let me know in the comments. Am I being unrealistic to think that these prices are really outrageous? Am I being unrealistic? Am I being a tightwad? I just think it's just unbelievable. Anyway, I'll stop my grunting and griping, but let me know. I want to hear from you. Comment. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope I've given you enough to think about coming back. And like, share, do all those things. Subscribe would be really great. But most importantly, comment. I love your comments. Let me know where you're from. You know, answer some of my questions. Talk to me. Talk to me about this issue and your feelings on it. And I would love to know your thoughts. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'll take them all. But I just had to share that. It's just got me flabbergasted. So anyway, with that, I am going to get back to what I was doing. I have other things to do. It's evening. I don't want to be yawning on you. I did one, and I can tell I'm getting a little tired. It's been a long day. And, yeah, love ya. Thank you for joining me. And until we meet again, I certainly hope the universe provides. I truly do. Thank you now. Bye-bye.